Right, come on, Sam Parkin. You get paid the big bucks to sit here with me every single Wednesday. I want you to earn your coin here, okay? Already at this time of year, when we're, 9 months away from a major tournament, people are pinging their starting 11s all over social media and mates' WhatsApp groups. Come on then, we're 9 months away from the European Championships, qualification secured. If I was to put you on the spot right here, right now, Sam Parkin's 11, run me through it, please.
Any chance of the heads up here? I just got to do it off the cuff, yeah?
Well,
Didn't even get briefed on this.
I mean, it must have been. Okay, well, I mean, come on, you must have a rough idea of what you want. We can spitball, we can talk about it. Come on.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, you know, you seem a little bit baffled by this, but I mean, there's a good 9-10 players that pick themselves, no?
Yeah, I'll go.
Or do you want me to start? And you can correct me.
No, I'll go back for as it was last night with Luke Shaw on the left-hand side.
Okay.
Goalkeeper, not my specialist subject, but I haven't got a problem with Pickford.
Okay.
I know some people do. The midfield, I think the Calvin Phillips thing is an issue. I think that's a bigger issue than the Harry Maguire thing.
What's the issue?
The issue being he's not playing football. And I think if he was to go into a summer tournament having not played in the midfield, that role, I think, is very different to the role that Harry...
Is it easier for a centre-back to slot in having not played much for the midfielder?
Considering he's done it before, Harry Maguire, and his organisational skills, his aggression is probably the reason that, you know, and playing the way that Gareth Southgate wants his team to play are clearly the reasons that Gareth Southgate is continuing to pick him, and that relationship between him and Stones, what he's done previously. I think there's more room for it to go wrong with Calvin Phillips in that midfield, and I think we saw that last night. Late to a couple of challenges.
Oh, he was lucky not to be sent off, I thought, to be honest with you. I thought there could have been a second yellow card in there, and that was early on in the first half.
Absolutely. I'm stalling here, aren't I, massively? So I would have, obviously, Declan Rice in there. It's a problem. I think it's horses for courses. I think
other options there. You mentioned, because we know Rice and Bellingham would be nailed on. I think a lot of people out there, myself included, love the idea of it just being them two, and then you have James Maddison as a more traditional 10 playing off the striker. But I think we know by now that Southgate is going to want another central midfielder alongside those two, whether it's Henderson, whether it's Phillips. Two names to throw at you. You mentioned Conor Gallagher earlier. I really like him. He's playing week in, week out for Chelsea. Box-to-box midfielder, can get in the box, win the ball high up the pitch. Is he an option?
Well, I think in some games, and this has been the criticism thrown at Gareth Southgate previously, you don't need the two holders, the two shields in front of the centre-halves. And I think that's definitely the case in games that you're expected to win or can put on a little bit of a show. So therefore, Conor Gallagher would be a better option than Calvin Phillips because he gives you more in an attacking sense. It gives you a better chance of getting a goal. In the same kind of bracket, you could play Maddison in the Bellingham role, and then Bellingham does essentially what Calvin Phillips was doing last night.
Sure.
And a lot of people were talking about it being a 4-2-3-1, and I think it was at times, but you still have the opportunity. And I think a lot of midfielders are doing this now, You have one sitter in Declan Rice, you have 110, i.e. Maddison, and then Jude Bellingham does everything. Jude Bellingham has that licence to get forward, a bit of a hybrid role, kind of what Mason Mount was doing at Chelsea. And against the lesser nations, against the teams you're expected to win, where they're going to come in for incredible flack if they don't take the team to the opponent, that, for me, would be the best midfield.
Okay, I like it. We were speaking off air, quite an interesting debate actually, about the front three. And we were saying that probably we think Saka and Kane are going to be locked in as two of the front three, Saka on the right, Kane leading the line. But I was a little bit surprised. Guy said I'm a massive Phil Foden fan. But you were saying you were more in the camp of Marcus Rashford over Phil Foden.
Yeah, and Grealish maybe.
Really?
Yeah, we'd have Saka on the right. Yeah. Is that a given?
I think Saka and Kane are nailed on to be two of the three.
So I just think you want someone. I like the inverted wingers. I do. I can't really picture Phil Foden. Yeah, there's probably times when they're playing nice, intricate stuff at City where he gets to the byline and he can go on the outside. I'm not saying he can't do that, but I think there's very few better sights than Rashford in that mood last night for his goal. And similarly to Grealish coming in field and linking up, you get the link up, you get the cleverness of Grealish, and then you have the ability of Saka coming in off the other side to get strikes away. I'd prefer one of those two over Foden. Foden as a 10, Foden off the right is probably a different conversation for me. Off the left, I'd prefer one of the other two. Is that a strong enough argument?
No, it's a fair argument. It's a really fair argument. I find Marcus Rashford really frustrating.
Yeah.
Because last season was probably his best season, right, as a Man United player. Really, really consistent in terms of week in, week out, scoring a lot of goals. Probably one of United's best players. But I just thought he clearly has all the ability in the world. Just think sometimes with him, his consistency is so frustrating. You know, he goes and has 2 good games and you think, wow, this kid's got everything. He can run, he's pacey, he's skillful, he can cut in, he's really good in front of goal, can score long-range efforts. And then he just goes missing. And just sometimes he looks like a player that's sulking a lot. He's got a bad attitude. And I think this season, right, you know, you think last season he was absolutely fantastic. I think he's really struggled this season. Where do you stand on Rashford has he lived up, in your opinion, to the hype that we saw from him as a young 18-year-old when he burst onto the scene? Or is there still more to come, do you think, from him?
I think there's more to come. Why he's lost his form this season, I couldn't tell you. There's clearly been a really bad drop-off. I mean, last year his standards were incredibly high. He looked...
Over 25 goals, he was brilliant.
I remember seeing him at the London Stadium. I think they actually lost the game, but just the confidence he was playing with towards the back end of last season was incredibly evident to me. So, listen, I think with him, and whether you can't always get away with it in international football, I think he gives the ball away quite a lot. But I think then he's always liable to do something like he did last night. I've been desperately trying to find the game at the World Cup last time out where he was badly out of form. Do you remember it? And he got a couple of goals.
Rashford.
Yeah, in the last tournament. I can't recall who the opponent was, but he was actually in the game. I was sitting and from my armchair giving him a load of stick because he couldn't keep the ball for the team. And then all of a sudden, he popped a couple in. So I think he's got
Was that in Qatar or the previous tournament?
It was in Qatar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought he went into Qatar in pretty good form, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I just mean in terms of England, and I think there was a lot of conversation about him. I could be getting this horribly wrong, but I think there was a lot of conversation like we're having now, whether he should have been a starter. And I think he is that type of player. He'll give away 3 or 4 and everyone is bemoaning his inclusion. Then all of a sudden, he can do something like he did last night. And I know it's not always easy on the eye, but I think he's still such an incredible sight when he's flying. So I'd have him there. I'd have Grealish right there as well, knocking on the door. I don't know who I'd go for between the two, but I'd definitely probably go for one of them over Foden on the left.
Also, by the way, these are great options, aren't they? How great is it that we're sitting here right now and we're going, we're basically having to drop or not pick 3 of Maddison, Foden, Grealish and Rashford, right? The options are absolutely fantastic. The centre-back one is, go on, sorry, carry on.
Wales it was. Sorry, group
Wales
stage.
It was. Yeah,
group
yeah,
stage,
yeah,
3-0, got 2.
Got 2, yeah. And then he didn't start, did he, in the last 16? And I think a lot of people were really surprised. He went into the tournament in good form of Man United. He scored against Wales and then wasn't picked for that game in the last 16 and also the quarterfinals, where, of course, we got knocked out. The centre-back one is always going to be controversial because we know Harry Maguire is not playing for Manchester United. But I've always said this, I don't have a problem with Harry Maguire starting for England. I know he's not playing for Manchester United. You made the point there, Sam, that coming in as a centre-back and adapting, having not playing week in, week out, is a lot easier if you're a midfielder or an attacker. And again, as been highlighted, every time I've watched him for England since the European Championships 4 years ago, he doesn't let England down. He's got a good understanding with John Stones, and I still don't think there is somebody else that's banging down the door hard enough to go, you're being dropped.
I think that's fair. Yeah, that would probably be my opinion on it. I really admire him. I admire his
mental strength,
his strength of character. Absolutely. I know you tweeted about it a few weeks ago, I think, in the wake of the Scotland victory.
The Scotland thing was ridiculous.
It was.
It was disgusting, Sam.
It was. And actually, apart from the mistake, and I know that can be the difference between winning or losing, but apart from the mistake, he played some lovely passes
against Scotland.
Yeah.
But you know what? The Scotland mistake, I mean, how often do we see a defender try to make that slide clearance?
Yeah.
And it can happen to anyone, can't it?
Yeah. I mean, to completely contradict myself, if he's playing every week, if he's at the top of his game, if he's incredibly sharp, does he move his feet a little bit quicker? Does he anticipate a little bit quicker? And that could possibly be a concern going into the summer, and also the risk of injury. Because if he's going to be playing bit part role in a few cup games, maybe in a dead rubber in the Champions League or whatever, there's not going to be the opportunity. But then you have the ability to go into the camp, play the warm-up games. So I probably side with you there. I think he's been such a reliable performer for Southgate, and because there's maybe not someone at one of the top teams playing at an elite level. I mean, Levi Colwill maybe, if we jump ahead to that
or
stage of the
someone that is
season.
Ben White, but he's just not in contention, is he?
I think Guehi is probably the closest right now, because tell me a commodity that Harry Maguire's got other than the experience that Mark Guehi hasn't got. He's got the composure on the ball, he's got the feet, he's got the ability to hit a pass, and he's got the recovery pace.
And I thought in the 2 games in the last international break that he started both, didn't he, against Ukraine and Scotland? I think he looked really, really solid.
Yeah, and it's probably for people outside of Chelsea, you probably don't realise that he's been a massive part of England's age groups coming through.
Yeah, sure.
He captained, I think, the England winning team under Steve Cooper, certainly captained Chelsea to various Youth Cup wins. So he's been a leader. I think probably above Levi Colwill, maybe Tomori. Internally at Chelsea, there was higher hopes for him, you know, having watched his development. So no surprise to see what he's doing at Palace now. And yeah, going back to those characteristics, maybe he's, you know, on a level with Maguire now, or surpassing that in terms of what he brings. Maybe that recovery pace of Walker and another gets Maguire and Stones out of a little bit of problems, and maybe that's a part of it. There's clearly something Southgate loves. And even last night, I'm watching it and I'm frustrated at times because I think, do it a little bit quicker, Maguire, do it, you know, move it. And there seems to be quite a lot of gesticulating between him and Stones about a lack of options. But I almost think that must be the game plan. It must be the 2 centre-halves sit, allow that rotation to happen in front. You know, they know the patterns that they're playing. And I think he almost wants them to be relaxed and, you know, a little bit maybe continental than in the past. And maybe even draw that press towards them, and then he knows that Maguire and Stones have got the ability to bypass it. So I do get frustrated, but I probably trust the manager a little bit above others.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.